Hello and welcome. It is Wednesday, December 18th, 2024. I guess this is the Christmas episode. I can't imagine we'd film another one in between now and Christmas.
Probably not. I'm trying to
Christmas
think.
is Wednesday.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, and it's not happening Monday or Tuesday, I'll tell you that.
Okay. Then, yeah, this
And
is.
I assume
Well, it won't happen after Christmas either.
Okay.
On that same week. So,
then
we'll take the Christmas week
maybe
off.
it's the New Year's one too then. But hopefully not.
Let's all calm down there. Let's calm down. We're
right.
going to try and get one in before New Year's.
And we're going to try to keep it Christmassy. We got maybe it won't be a Christmas themed game, but we're going to keep it Christmas themed today. We're going to try something out with MLB free agency. Excited about that.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think of that because I thought we were going to do one more episode. We usually do some sort of like wish list.
Yeah,
like
well,
Christmas wish list.
you put it in the script as Christmas shopping. And I'm like, you know what? I'll play with that.
Okay, that's
I'll play
good.
with
That's
that. It's Christmas list shopping. We're going to do some of that.
For the MLB teams.
Yes, for some MLB free agency and stuff like that. We'll talk that epic Lions-Bills game and the repercussions from it. We'll talk the Eagles some more. I was actually impressed.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yep.
I called them out, and then that was good.
Yeah.
I still have, there's still some things, but we'll get to that.
I don't know how you can have that opinion now, though, in the landscape of the NFC. But we'll get to it.
I watch me. And we'll talk some Sam Darnold. What's his future?
Yeah.
And they talked about it on the broadcast. Is he gonna still be a Viking? Where is his future in the NFL? But he's maybe found his place. And he's got a future. He's got a future.
Oh, he definitely has a future. We just don't know where yet. But.
And Dom will talk some college football, which is always exciting. But with that, that's kind of the gist. Dom, get us started.
All right. So if you're an adult, life isn't fair. Some people are allowed to do things and get away with things that you are not. Some people get more leeway than you. And it's the same with playing quarterback in the NFL, because I thought this last Sunday was a perfect example of if you're going to be a certain skill type at that position, the things that you are not allowed to do. So at any point, like Josh Allen, Matt Stafford, Jordan Love, these guys, I can live with some turnovers. I can live with some interceptions, because Josh Allen at any point in a game can single-handedly make a play that nobody else in the league can make. At any point, Matt Stafford and Jordan Love can slide away from a defender and uncork a 40-yard missile down the field. Again, something not many in the league can do. So what am I talking about in relation to what happened on Sunday? Well, I'm talking about three different quarterbacks. One who is fighting to get one more year of a chance to start. One who just got paid a big contract. And another one who, it was reported after the Sunday, is looking for a $50 million deal. That is Brock Purdy, Tua Tagovailoa, and Bryce Young. And if you're not going to be a physically gifted individual at this position, small, Brock Purdy can move a little bit, but he's not Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels. He can move a little bit, but he's nothing crazy. Tua can't. And Bryce Young, not much. A little bit just because of his younger age. But again, he's not beating a defensive end around a corner and running for 10 yards. That's not his game. And we know with the small size what the arm talent is. It's pretty average. Well, if you're going to be like that, you have to play a certain way. You cannot, under any circumstances, be turning the football over. I think Bryce had 3 or 4 turnovers in that game. Tua threw 3 picks, and Brock Purdy threw what was honestly, at the end of the game, one of the most egregious interceptions of the entire season. And I have been critical of Kyle Shanahan. You need to pivot your offense a little bit. When it comes to just drop back passing, his offense ain't that great. Everything goes off the run game. That's not on Kyle, though, for Brock to make that decision. They had plenty of time still. It wasn't 3rd or 4th down, and he just throws one up towards the end zone in double coverage in a spot that had no chance. One defender in front of him, one defender behind him, nothing close. It kind of looked like one of those Mac Jones interceptions last year. And this is the thing that got Mac in trouble. If you're going to be like that, you can't play as if you're Josh Allen, Matt Stafford, and Jordan Love. Under no circumstances can we have you be turning the football over. You have got to be an elite decision maker. And the other thing, again, that's unfair in this scenario is, guess what? Matt Stafford, Jordan Love, Josh Allen, they probably should throw even more picks. But they throw so hard that it's actually hard for the defensive players to catch it. I mean, they're playing defense. They're not NFL wide receivers with amazing hands. You saw in the Niner game on Thursday, Stafford threw what should have been like 3 interceptions. But 2 of them are over the middle of the field. He throws an absolute missile, and the defensive player can't bring it in. Well, Tua, Bryce, Brock, they throw a much easier ball to catch. So, like, the defense has a better chance of making plays when they do make a mistake. And that's just the reality of the situation. It's unfair, but it is what it is. And you're going to be a limited talent at that position. You have to be an elite decision maker. You can't be turning the football over. This was what Drew Brees was. Drew Brees, now, obviously at the end of the year, at the end of his career, the arm fell off to a point where it wasn't even an NFL quarterback, but he never had a great arm. But he was an elite decision maker. He didn't make dumb mistakes. Did not turn the football over. You could trust him to manage the game, and that's what you're going to have to do at this position if you're going to have the skill set of these 3 guys. Now, luckily for Bryce, this is a terrible quarterback class, so I'm sure he's going to get that 3rd year. Tua already got paid. It's about the Niners now, and I think it's insane if San Francisco gives him $50 million. I would give him a Daniel Jones deal. I'd pay him $35, $40. But if that's really what he wants, I'd tell him to go kick rocks. And I actually don't really know what his market is. I don't think it's as big. I think he's actually more valuable to San Francisco than he kind of is on the open market. But in general, when you're evaluating quarterback, you can apply this to the guys in the league, not in the league, whatever it is. You are not allowed to be turning the football over if you're going to have a limited skill set at that position.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't expect you to argue or have much to say, unless you want to bring it around to the Brock Purdy contract too, because we could talk about that.
I was going to mention that a little bit because San Francisco, you know, we've talked about how they're old. They might need to not break it all down, but
they definitely need a reboot,
retool a little bit, and it's a little bit of everywhere. Mm-hmm. You know, the defense all over the place. You know, the skill positions, maybe the line a little bit on the offensive side. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you are in a position where you can also throw the quarterback in that mix, unless you're willing to do kind of a full rebuild. Mm-hmm. Because, all right, you got a serviceable guy. He shouldn't be too expensive, but, you know, just given the market, if you are serviceable in this league at this point, quarterbacks just are 45 to 55 million guys by default, it seems.
Yes.
And that's tough.
But I do have a thing on that, because we say it's just by default. Well, is it though?
By default, if you are a functioning starter. Because
here's the thing. The price has been driven up by what I would call bad organizations. And yet this is the only sport, really the only thing in business in general, that people expect that the bad, poorly run business is just going to set the market for everybody else. That's what I don't understand. And eventually, by the way, Lamar found this out, because eventually Baltimore wouldn't cave. They're like, listen, the Browns are a mess. You're not getting a fully guaranteed contract. Go kick rocks. It's not happening. And the Jags give Trevor Lawrence, he's now paid the highest, I think, of any NFL player right now, despite the fact that he had been injured the year before and really hadn't accomplished much, other than coming back one time against a Brandon Staley defense in the playoffs. I decided to make that the highest paid player. Like, the Jags and the Browns are terribly run. Awful. Like, why do bad organizations set the market for good ones? They don't.
Well, football is unique in the fact that there is no position in sports quite like the quarterback.
No, I get that.
So, you know, the Jacksonville Jaguars set the market a couple years ago with an absolutely ridiculous contract to Christian Kirk.
Yep.
And that being... Now, the trend is in the NFL that, like, well, the money is going in the direction of receivers. So it's not as big of a deal, especially because they're not as expensive as quarterbacks. And if that's the way the game is going, then you want to lock those guys in, especially the good ones. But Jacksonville was also in a unique position where, like, they had no one else to pay. Mm-hmm. So might as well guarantee a guy for our QB that we're also not paying yet. The market, again, was already trending in that direction because of this huge splash of these incredibly skilled wide receivers, and we knew they were all going to get paid. It's just we let Jacksonville set the market with a guy like Christian Kirk, but that's okay. It's kind of just corrected itself anyway.
Yeah, it definitely has.
Because we knew that, well, Jamar Chase was going to get a huge contract. I know he hasn't got it yet, but we know he's going to get it. We knew Justin Jefferson was already earned his right to say, I want a huge contract at that point in time. Quarterback, again, is the most unique position in sports. So, like, you have to almost bow to them more than the receivers. You can at least push back with the receivers, like, come on, bro. We can find another one of you in the draft. Look how many every year comes out of the draft. We can push back a little bit like that. You cannot say that to a QB. Good luck with that one. Go find a guy in the draft and then coach him up.
I mean, you can.
Pay me.
A little bit. I mean, Green Bay said it to Aaron.
They already had a man in the building.
The Steelers brought two quarterbacks in the offseason. It was like, one of them's going to work.
And both have been okay. Neither of them are going to win them a Super Bowl.
Probably not, but I don't know if Brock Purdy's going to win you a Super Bowl either.
I don't. On his own, no. And just where the San Francisco 49ers
you say
are,
on his own,
no.
But then when I pay him $50 million, he's got to be kind of on his own a little bit.
But if everyone's getting paid $50 million.
I know you've said this before. Like, eventually everyone's paying $50 million. But listen, Sam Darnold might be available.
Kirk was never going to get Atlanta close to the Super Bowl with the money he was getting paid this year, even if he was healthy and functioning.
No, absolutely not.
Why was that a good contract?
Yeah, I don't think it was.
You were defending it.
I was defending it in the sense that, like, at least it's not long term, and
Sure.
they at least were like, listen, this could go south. We need another chance. We need a backup plan here. And they went and got the backup plan, and they need the backup plan now. And at least, like, it's not a long term. Like, Brock Purdy is young. Like, any contract that's going to be worked out, this is not going to be 2 years.
Yeah,
it's going to be 5 to 6.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, Brock Purdy's been average this year.
Yeah, I would say so. And I don't think it's all his fault. I think Kyle has got to update his passing game.
Sure, Debo's old now.
Debo's old.
Ayuk missed camp and
then got hurt.
There playing in right now.
Yeah, I'm not putting it all on Brock, but that game on Thursday was an eye opener. That was like, ooh, Brock, you are not allowed to make decisions like that. Last year we praised you because you were a good decision maker. You could manage the game far better than Jimmy G ever could. Trey Lance has no feel for anything. Like, but that one on Thursday was like, Brock, you're getting into a bad space here that you can't be in this space. You are not gifted enough to be in this space.
But is that because of 49ers are desperate at this point, a division opponent? That loss really, like, you're not eliminated.
Well, yeah, but no, you're proving my point. Because then in the big games, right, if I'm going to pay you $40, $50 million, you can't just, he's a good decision maker and he manages the game most of the time, but then in the big games, he doesn't. No. You got to be able to do it both.
No, yes, but like if you...
And again, if you can't on your own win me the big game, then you're certainly not allowed to turn the football over and make decisions like that.
But if you're...
They were in position to win that game still.
I know. I mean, it was very low scoring.
It was.
Actually, heck, that drop by Debo...
Oh, that was awful.
Probably changed very much of that game.
Oh, yeah.
He could have maybe streaked to the end zone with that. Anyway.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, I've talked about it. Brock Purdy is... He is the... What do they call him? The system QB base?
A system quarterback, I guess.
But they have like another phrase for him.
Oh, I don't know.
I can't remember. Anyway, basically a system QB. And that's fine. That's what Tom was, sort of. And I don't think he's so talented that he's going to win you on his own, like I said.
Yeah.
But when you put him then in a situation, which is not his fault, where, hey, our backs are against the wall here, and you're not talented enough to win this game, but we need you to pull something out of your ass, you're going to try things.
But he didn't need to. It was second down. There was 4 minutes still left. See, I wouldn't be ripping him if it was desperate time. It wasn't. They were driving. There was plenty of time on the clock. It was second down. It wasn't third down. It wasn't fourth down. Like, throw it away. Throw it away. Live another play. Fine. Run for 3 yards.
But
2 yards.
It's a year of total frustration.
I know, but I can't. But now you're going to ask me for $50 million. No, you can't do it. I can't do it. And I would feel comfortable giving him the Daniel Jones deal. I'd give him 30, 35 mil. But if we're talking 50, 55. I can't do it. I just can't. So, and listen, Sam Darnold's going to be available. Sam Darnold is not going to demand $50 million. I guarantee he's not. So, like, and he's a better talent.
Oh, but
and a better physical athlete than Brock. Now, you can have all the reservations you want.
Decision making is.
I know, but is Brock so much better when you make decisions like that? Is Brock so much better that I'm going to cave to $50 million when I can pay Sam $30?
I know that looks bad after Thursday.
Is Brock a $20 million a year better than Sam Darnold? I do not think so.
His decision making, although after that Thursday, I guess, is in question, I still think it's miles ahead of Sam Darnold. And the only reason we are thinking, oh, Sam Darnold cleaned up some of his decision making is because he has people like Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson.
I won't deny that. I think this is the best version of Sam you will ever see. So you have to take that into consideration. But Kyle is an offensive coach. He can scheme things up. And they're always going to want to run the ball a lot, which at least limits the throws, which can limit the mistakes with Sam. And the other thing is, again, Sam is a very good athlete. Sam can make plays on his own. Now, sometimes he gets in trouble doing that too. But, like, Sam can do things that Brock is incapable of doing. So that's why another thing thrown in there where I'm like, Brock is not a $20 million better player than Sam Darnold.
But can Sam do that on a 49ers team that is old, that the line is getting old, the weapons are getting old,
oh, I know,
all injured?
No, I get that. They're gonna have to really retool things here in the draft.
So, like, Sam would be probably cheaper because I assume.
But again, if I have $20 million more to play with, that helps me rebuild things a little bit faster than I'm now paying Brock 50, 55.
I guess.
All right, we got to move on. But
all right,
Jesse, you got to start it on the next one.
All right.
But again, guys, life's not fair. Some people are allowed to do things that you are not.
But all right, and I can't unlock my iPad. I just can't type in the code correctly. But let's talk about the game of the week. Maybe the game of the year. Because, oh, man, that had me hype. And then, post-game happened. They were like, oh, we're probably not going to get that again. But the Lions versus the Bills. And, we got two totally opposite storylines forming post-game. One is the Lions are in triage. And it's probably over. But that was fun.
As far as making the Super Bowl.
Sure.
They'll be in the playoffs. They could lose the division still, though, actually.
No, yeah. They are currently tied with Minnesota, and they have the tiebreaker.
Yes.
But it's still 3 games to play.
I know.
I mean, technically, Green Bay is right there, too. If it goes bad in these last 3 weeks, which I'm not sure what the Lions' schedule is. I'm sure
they get the Bears this week at least, but I think it gets hard again after that.
That's great.
Yeah.
But anyway, you already lost Hutchinson, dealt with it pretty well, but you've now lost Carlton Davis for what they're thinking is 6 weeks with a broken jaw, and McNeil is now out for the season with an ACL, on top of the mountain of other injuries you've just accrued on your defensive side of the ball.
Particularly the defensive line.
Yeah.
This is like a cluster injury at a place that was comparable. Do you remember the Rams the next season after the Super Bowl? Their entire offensive line went down.
Oh, yeah.
Starters, backups, didn't matter. Like, that's the closest thing to what the Lions have experienced just on that unit alone.
And it really, because we talked about how, like, the defensive backs are better this year, but we understand, like, it's better because, like, how much limited time these quarterbacks are getting with the pass rush and all that stuff, and they're stopping the run like it's nobody's business, and this is going to put a lot of pressure on that questionable defensive back. And again, I think Dan Campbell is still going to get his guys rah-rahing. I still think they can absolutely win this division, win a playoff game, and, maybe in a couple weeks they'll have us convinced again. They're like, oh, listen, maybe with Dan Campbell anything's possible. But my God, they need to pull something out of their ass if that's the case, because like that was devastating. What the Bills put on them. This Sunday.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, again, I'll have to look if they can win a playoff game and then maybe they get a bunch of guys back. I might be singing a different tune.
Obviously, that bye would be humongous.
Yeah, it would. But right now, I don't. Right now, the roster as it is incapable of making a Super Bowl, in my opinion.
Probably, yes.
Yeah.
Especially, and we'll talk about it in a second, especially after what's called the Phillies, the Philadelphia Eagles did show me. That was good.
It's also not just that. It's also the two, I would say, two of the three best teams that the Lions would have to face. I just said that they have cluster injuries on the defensive line. Well, what do the Eagles do? What do the Packers do now? Like, they run the football very physically with very talented running backs. Like, it's also just a bad matchup thing now, too.
Sure. And I mean, not to say that the Vikings can't. Aaron Jones is a very talented running back. And it's like, if you were in the AFC, and honestly, I still would think that, okay, good luck beating the Bills again.
Well, we're going to talk about the AFC in a second.
But the competition would be, all the good teams, I swear to God, are on the NFC side.
No, I agree.
Right now, except the Bills.
No, we're about to talk about that after we're done with the Lions part, because I do have a thing on the Bills. I don't have the stats in front of me because I just heard it when I was doing some research for this week's picks and gambling. But the amount of points the Bills have given up now in the last 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, that also seems like a team that's not capable of making the Super Bowl. But when you look around the landscape of the AFC, Baltimore's secondary is not good. Lamar in big situations against real defenses in the playoffs, not good. The Chiefs can't score 20 points.
But it's also like,
I heard that they might get Hollywood Brown back this week, though.
Yes.
So we'll have to see how that plays out.
If not this week, he will probably be back for playoff time, definitely.
Yeah.
Like he
if the Bills,
he had a full practice yesterday.
If the Bills were in the NFC right now, I would put them in the same category, even more so maybe than the Lions, where I'd be like, there's no chance. There's no way this team can make the Super Bowl. But I look around the landscape of the AFC, like, I just don't, who else am I backing?
Yeah.
The Steelers? Like,
well, what's TJ Watt's status?
They said they're actually pretty optimistic he could even play this week against the Ravens. So
okay, right. I heard wasn't done for the year, but I didn't know.
There are some serious limitations with the Steelers, but we have to be fair. If George Pickens is back, it does change their offense a lot. And you know what? They were a Najee Harris fumble away from still being in that game.
That's true. That is true.
That did flip the entire game.
That is true.
So there is a world that maybe the Steelers are. Just because the Bills can't play defense. They can't stop anybody. Well, I know the Steelers can. Can the Chiefs score 17 on the Steeler defense if it's healthy? I'm not sure they can right now. So maybe it's Pittsburgh. But yeah, I can't. I want to take the Bills out of the Super Bowl window, but I can't because I look around the landscape of the AFC and I'm like, well, who the hell is it?
Well, and also, as bad as the defense has been the last 2 weeks, to the point where even in that Rams game, it had no business ending as close as it did, but it did. And even though the defense can't stop anybody, no one seems to be able to stop the Bills' offense.
That's true.
So if the Bills can patch it up, if McDermott, that defensive coach there, can find something just to get it a little better, a little more serviceable. And maybe the Steelers, because they're just so damn good on offense. Or on defense, to slow that offense down, I still would take Bills defense or Bills offense over Steelers defense.
Yeah,
it's just because Steelers defense would not be able to stop Bills offense all day. It just wouldn't.
Oh yeah, no, you can't. You got to limit teams and players like that.
But as bad as the Bills defense is, I don't think Russell Wilson is talented enough anymore to match what the Bills can do.
See,
but good as the Steelers defense is,
but they run the ball very well. So they can manage the game that way. They can run it for big plays, play action. You got George Pickens over the top. Listen, I'm not backing the Steelers. I'm just saying. If Pickens is here, it does change that team a lot.
You can. But also, actually, another big injury on the Lions that we haven't mentioned, Dave Montgomery.
Yes.
Although that's not like, they still have Gibbs. Like, no. Their 1-2 punch of the Sonic and Knuckles, just the speed and the power. Like, there's a reason the teams want that
Oh, agreed.
dual threat.
You know what annoys me on Twitter every freaking Sunday when Lions games? Everyone's like, why does Montgomery get so many carries? Jamar Gibbs should just get all the carries. And I'm like, guys, part of the reason Gibbs looks this fast and explosive is because he doesn't touch the ball 20 times in a game. He only has to touch it 10 or 11 or 12.
And also, I mean, they mix it up. But the strategy of, Montgomery early to really wear a defense down and Gibbs late when they can't catch up to him anymore, and that's a deadly combination right there.
I know. It is.
That's and like you can sit there and say it like Montgomery's going to wear you down early, and then you got to chase Gibbs the rest of the game. You can tell him that straight up. Good luck stopping it.
Oh, yeah, just because someone knows something's coming. Like, listen, when Montgomery's in the game, it's probably, if they run the football, it's probably going to go between the tackles. When Gibbs is in the game, it's probably going to go to the outside. Everybody knows it.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you can stop it.
Yeah. And that's literally the point.
I know.
They want you to look in between the tackles when Montgomery's on the field because, stopping the run, it batters you, it bruises you. It gets you tired. People think, if I'm just chasing Gibbs everywhere, that's going to tire me out. Yeah, but you're not going to be so tired in the beginning of the game. You're going to catch him, and you won't get tired as fast. But if you're just getting battered and bruised, that just wears you down.
Yes.
There's nothing you can do about that.
All right, so before we go to our break, let's quickly go into the Eagles-Steelers game, even though we've talked about it a bit. You were the one who was super critical of the Eagles last year, so I'll let you start with.
Okay, and I still am.
I figured you probably will.
But you know what? That was great. That looked great. Like almost totally from the entire team. Sirianni still yelled at his coaches on the sideline,
I'm going to talk about that.
Which was really weird. Right in front of the cameras. We talked about, these arguments happen all the time on the sidelines. The cameras actually don't catch it as much as it happens. Coach to coach, that one's not good. Anyway, but the players on the field.
He got into it with Jalen Carter too.
Yeah, he got it with everybody, it seems. But also, the passing game looked good. A.J. Brown was heavily involved. You didn't need Saquon to touch the ball all that game. In fact, he looked fine. He had his moments. But the Steelers clearly had a game plan for him, and that they shut him out pretty well. But, hey, they still – and, I mean, the ball control was perfect. That was some of the best clock management I've seen in a long time, since Tom Brady and Bill Belichick wrote the book on it, basically. That was good stuff. The reason I'm still skeptical, one, Sirianni just still exists. Two, he's yelling at his coaches on the sidelines and players. And three, although A.J. Brown was heavily involved in that game, looked good in that game, when you score the touchdown and you go out of your way to celebrate with the guy that everyone was talking about you have problems with, that's extra. That to me, it tells me that you're going out of your way to show no, it's fine. We're bros. Look at us. We're bros. And listen, I don't think you hate each other. But there's clearly some emotional stuff going on in the locker room that okay, you patched it up this week. Probably only because Brandon Graham went at the press conference and said way too much stuff. Which actually may be good in hindsight. I still think it's a patch job in this locker room of guys at each other's throats. It's still Sirianni keeping that patch job together, which I don't like. But you're right. That looked really good. Almost a perfect game where you didn't need your best player to be the guy against a really damn good defense. So I'll give the Eagles all that. But there is still some questions.
I do want to throw it out there, though. It's pretty obvious now that without Pickens, the Steelers' offense is not the same. And they were a Najee fumble away from still being in that game. But it was impressive.
All that is true.
I want to talk about bigger things with the Eagles, which is now with the Lions injury, they probably are my betting favorite to make the Super Bowl out of the NFC. But the funny thing with them, there's no other organization I think like this in sports, certainly none other in football, where they have all the elements of what should be a dysfunctional team. They have fired a lot of coaches in the last 6 to 7 years. But two of them have won. One of them won the Super Bowl and he still got fired. Sirianni made a Super Bowl, yet he's been in the hot seat now for a year and a half. They run through coaches. They are loud. They are dysfunctional on the sideline. Jeffrey Lurie can meddle a few times. Their GM is pretty loud and outspoken and Howie Roseman, which usually you don't want a front office to be that. I mean, Big Dom, the security guard, I think actually plays a huge role beyond what a security guard should, because I think he's a calming influence that gets in the way of Nick Sirianni fighting his own teammates, or Jalen Carter fighting somebody else, or his coaches fighting. Like, every time there's a thing on the sideline, it is Big Dom that gets in the middle. It's like, all right, guys.
That is very weird.
It's bizarre. It's super weird. There's nothing else like it. But, and I think it's a real thing, and I think they know it, because remember when he got in trouble and the Niners won and he got suspended?
Yes.
And Sirianni and the Eagles were like actually mad about it. I think Big Dom is like a part of the coaching staff. Because they're so dysfunctional. They're so loud and aggressive and get into weird situations in game that they need him to just be like, it's okay, guys.
Maybe.
Yes, everybody. He's like the team pastor or something. Like, I don't know what to call it, but he's like actually an important part of the coaching staff.
Oh, maybe.
I'm serious.
I have noticed how strange it is. I mean, once he burst onto the scene, like places like Barstool were just trying to make him a thing, it seemed like. But it is strange how he, once you learned who he was, and like, there he is. Oh, he's in the background of like everything going on. Like, you ever like, you notice something, and you look at a bunch of old pictures, and like, oh, there it is in the background of every photo. It's like that. It's like, oh, why is Big Dom everywhere?
I know.
He really is.
I know.
I guess I didn't really think of it like, maybe he's part of this coaching staff. You don't mean literally,
but yeah,
like almost involved.
But he's like actually an important piece of.
He's so involved, he almost is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And in a absolute roller coaster of a team, especially emotionally, I think he's like a calming influence to like stop things escalating past the point of no return.
Because I see nothing
but
like
don't
this.
like when you think about it, right? The owner has meddled sometimes. Now, he's usually smart about it, but he has. Howie Roseman is one of the more outspoken, famous GMs, which usually you want your front office to be just in the background, quiet. Now, you want them to have power and make moves, but you don't want them talking. They've fired a bunch of coaches. I mean, Chip Kelly actually had a winning record when they fired him. Doug Peterson made a Super Bowl, they fired him. Like, they run through coaches. They have all the elements of what should be a dysfunctional franchise. But they win a lot.
They've
won for a while.
Season games.
Well, listen, it's hard to win a Super Bowl. They fired Andy Reid.
I don't know.
Like,
I'm a Patriots fan. I don't know.
I know, but they win a lot. They're clearly not a bad franchise, but they have all the elements of what makes you think that they should be.
Whoa. There are teams.
They are easily the most successful, dramatic football team I've ever seen.
Sure. Well, yes. But there are teams that represent their region of the country more than others. And the Philadelphia Eagles are, more than Eagles, Philadelphia.
Wildly emotional, a little loud and dysfunctional, a little inappropriate.
Yeah. Yeah. Philly teams, I mean, the Philadelphia Phillies are kind of like that. The Philadelphia 76ers are kind of like that.
Everyone in the NBA is kind of
like that. The Philadelphia Flyers coach is 100% that guy in John Tortorella.
Oh, yeah.
He is that guy. Philly, we talk about like certain places you need to be a certain breed of human being to play. Mm-hmm. Philadelphia is one of them.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe more than any other city.
I would agree.
Because Boston is very hard to play for because of how passionate the fans are, how rabid the media is.
I think
Philly might take it to another level.
I think Philly does. And I was going to say, I think people actually overestimate how hard the New York market is. I'm not saying it's not hard.
I think it's gotten easier, actually.
But because New York is such a massive city, like you couldn't walk around and most people are not going to recognize you. I mean, eventually you'll get recognized. But like, if you're famous in Philly or Boston, you can't walk around. Like, they're gonna know who you are pretty quickly. Yeah. Now, I know the media can be brutal in New York, but New York also has like a national fan base too. So it's not as rabid, I feel like, all the time, every day at home for you. Whereas Philly and Boston are small enough. You're not going to escape the media. When you go out, people know who you are. Like you can hide in New York a little bit.
No, Jeter talked about that.
Yeah.
He talked about how he was, I mean, for the most part, he would get recognized.
Again, I'm not saying it's easy, but I do think people talk about it like it's a little bit they make it harder than it is.
No, it is. I think it's gotten easier in New York because of this. The Yankees they're just not as prominent as they used to be. It's just, they're not. There's not as much pressure on the Mets. I don't think there's a lot of pressure actually to be a Jet or a Giant right now.
Well, they've been
sucked.
so bad for so long.
You know, the Rangers, the New York Rangers, it's hockey. They don't nearly have the pressure as these other sports. Knicks, I don't think they have a lot of pressure, actually.
No.
Maybe these last couple years because it's going on. But anyway, Philly, if your team is half decent in April, October, or September, you are crowned a champion in Philly.
The time.
Like, not even halfway through regular seasons, the fans crown them champions.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah.
That's tough. That's tough to play for. If your fans are that rabid, that's got to be tough to play for. And you got to be a certain guy to live in that city, to be amongst those people, and then to play for them and do it well.
It's a sick place.
And we say that actually as a compliment.
I know. One of my favorite things is always still going to be Alec Boehm when he made 2 errors in an inning, just mouthing, "I effing hate this place."
But
and then he got a standing ovation the next game when it came out.
Yeah. And now you know what? He's a core part of that team. He's one of the fan favorites, and he is thriving in the MLB as a Philadelphia Philly.
It's funny. All right, with that, we're going to take a break. When we come back, a little more NFL talk, some college, and then we'll do our MLB Christmas shopping list. So stick with us, guys. And we are back at Slo Ur Roll. Let's talk about the Packers. Not even just the game itself. Though they shined, they were great. They came out. They punched Seattle right in the face from the very start. It was 14-0 before you could even blink. And, Seattle kind of, sort of half-assedly kind of had a chance to get back into it a little bit, but not really. It never really felt like it was close. Never really felt like the Packers were in danger. I want to talk about how well-run Green Bay is. It really is insane. They might be the best, most well-run franchise for the last 20, 30 years in the NFL. I don't know. They don't have as many Super Bowls as the Pats. They don't, listen, it's hard to win Super Bowls, but they're always consistently good. And you know what they did when we just talked about pandering to quarterbacks? You know what they did? They thought ahead. They said, this kid's really talented. He's got all the makings of a high-end quarterback in this league, but he's a bit of a mess. We'll draft him. We're going to sit him. Aaron's getting older. Aaron's getting more dramatic by the year. At some point, we're going to have to just say no mas. Let's draft this kid. Don't care about all the criticism they got because all anybody did, that entire draft thing. And even after, when Aaron would lose a playoff game, well, if you hadn't drafted Jordan Love, you might have another wide receiver or something like that. But they were right. They were right in the end. And we all want to say, Aaron, you never had the defenses. Well, you know what Aaron always had, even better than Tom did? They always had an amazing offensive line. They never put their quarterback in peril. They always have people for him to throw to. They've always had an amazing offensive line. They gave up the least sacks. I think Aaron's been sacked the least times in this many span of years of a career. Always elite offensive lines they gave him. And this organization just knows how to draft offensive talent, knows how to develop offensive talent, and certainly knows how to develop the quarterback position because they've really never not had one. And they always were proactive about it. They always were ahead of the curve. We'll sit Aaron for a couple of years. When Brett gets too dramatic and too old, we'll move on. Did the same thing with Aaron Rodgers. And then, listen, they're too much of a winning franchise to totally be doing this a bit. But, Matt LaFleur brought in Robert Saleh, and I'm sure there was a little bit of at Aaron and the Jets and everything. They're just amazingly well run. In a place that it's not a big market. And again, you could argue maybe that helps, but it's Green Bay. And yet, just the steady, always good. Their dips almost never happen, and when they do, they're not for long periods of time. They're always ahead of the curve, never desperate. Just an amazing job.
Sure. And, got a bit lucky because they went from Mike McCarthy to LaFleur, and they had a hugely dramatic quarterback, and they did come out the other side relatively unscathed. There's a bit of luck involved there. To have nothing really go bad at any point.
As the great
to have
Roman,
almost
as the
everything
great
hit.
Roman philosopher Seneca said, luck is where preparation and opportunity meet.
It's, you know what else is funny?
And they waited. They waited to get rid of Mike until they finally went, all right, we've hit the ceiling. And they made a great hire in Matt LaFleur, who I'm pretty sure was their number one option too after they had fired Mark.
Well, I'm sure he has a lot to do
Mike.
with these offensive draft picks hitting.
True. I'm sure he does. But
now.
they developed pretty good offensive talent even before that. But yeah.
But also, like, there is, maybe a unique factor that sets this up and why they just are uniquely in position to have this. So they don't have someone there to ruin it all for them.
They don't have an owner.
They don't have an owner.
I know.
They don't have an owner.
That's a big part of this.
They don't have a guy.
You could have an overly dramatic, though, and power-hungry GM then, because there's no owner, and yet Gudikins, they make sure they don't have that.
They're out there, those GMs, but they're usually never as bad as, say, an egomaniac billionaire.
That's true. That
is
fair.
the owner of a $1 billion team.
That's true. That is fair.
Now,
if I could have one wish in life, right? If I had a genie, he could grant me not even 3 wishes, just one wish. It would be to have enough money to then be an owner of a team.
Oh,
because I would love it.
Oh, sure.
I would show them all how it's done. You hire people. You hire people, and you stay out of the damn way.
But you got to hire the right people.
No, you do have to hire the right people.
And you don't always know who that is. And you know what? The wrong people are so good at convincing people that they are the right people, it seems.
I mean, listen, you can miss on stuff. Just be willing to give them a fighting chance as a message to the rest of the league, and then you fire them and pivot. I mean, the Eagles have pivoted like 3 times in the last 10 years, and they still win.
Yeah. But I'm still going to say there's a bit of luck involved because Jordan Love, the people were like, well, I don't know about this one, son. Especially after it got a little dramatic when he was first drafted. Now you can say it in like hindsight, well, that was always the plan. They knew Aaron was going to be dramatic.
But the media made it more dramatic than I bet the organization did. And Aaron is dramatic, but like Aaron is always dramatic.
Well, that's what I'm saying is like, did they? So like, listen, Aaron's gonna throw a pissy, or like he's gonna piss his pants about this. We want that even maybe. Like we want him to run himself out of this building, to run himself out of this franchise, to the point where no one is going to care in the building and no one's going to care out of the building. Mm-hmm. But like, it's kind of lucky that Jordan Love worked out as well as he did. And then maybe they overplayed the hand with giving them the money too early, but it's okay. It's working out. I mean, you're what, 10-4?
Yeah.
I guess you're doing okay.
I definitely think it's worked out. Listen, he was a little rough in the beginning of the year, and he throws some bad picks. But when he gets on a heater, like when he's on his best, I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Now, no, his floor is a lot lower than some of the best quarterbacks in the league too. So I on the average, he's not a top 5 guy. But when he is going right, he's as good as anybody. Again, the floor is worse than Mahomes or Allen or Stafford or Joe Burrow or Herbert. So he's not those guys. But
he's fine. He's okay. He does well. Mm-hmm. But like, I'm still going to give more props to LaFleur.
Wait, what did Green Bay also do that was against the grain this year? All everyone talked about, the running back position is dead.
Oh.
It's dead. They went,
They let him walk.
They went.
And then you brought in somebody else.
Oh, they brought in someone else who was better.
Well, he's having a better year.
Well, Aaron's also been around longer.
We've noticed
Jones has been around longer too. So they were like, listen, I'd rather the younger guy. I'd also rather the guy that gives the more power run element to this team because that's what we need.
Every running back.
We have plenty of dynamic pass catchers. We don't need that.
Every running back that changed team is thriving.
I know.
On their new team.
I know.
And then some.
But they paid Jacobs, I think, more money than the other guys did. They were willing to do it. And it's massively been a massive win and changed the team. Because I would rather, because Jordan Love is mistake prone, I would rather him throw 25 times a game than have to ask him to throw 35 times a game. Because once we get into the 35 range, now you're increasing the chances that he's going to make a back-breaking, terrible decision. Whereas if I ask him to do it 25, we can manage a lot of things, and then 2 or 3 times a game we can ask him, all right, time to make a big throw.
Well, in theory, you're always trying to make your offense balanced so that you won't ever really have to, unless you are put in position where, like, listen, bro.
But the NFL thought, the brain trust was, you can make it balanced without having to invest into the running back position. And Green Bay went,
you invest in the line.
And Green Bay went, we don't think so. We think it's worth it. And it's been absolutely worth it.
Also, I do actually want to pull it back to, like, do not insult the absolute studs that were the offensive line for the New England Patriots for that 20-year dynasty.
Oh, no, they had some studs. I'm not saying the Pats didn't have very good offensive lines.
Because more than anything else, the consistency of, like, people, the defense was so consistent for the
they had some
the line.
They had some bad dips when what's his name had retired. Here's my thing. I think you can attribute the Pats' offensive line success directly to the coaching, whereas the Packers, I think it's both the front office and the coaching. Because the minute Skarnecchia left for that short amount, and then he came back, it wasn't nearly as good.
It wasn't actually. They still won a Super Bowl without him.
They did.
The Seahawks won. He was not with them. That was a good year for the line, actually. But yes, that year where they in the was it? Well, I can't remember his name. He's currently on the Bills. Pass rusher on the Bills. Used to be on the Broncos.
Von Miller.
Yeah, he literally got the line coach fired.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah.
Because he was in every play in Brady's face that one game. Anyway, back to the Packers. I mean, I'm mostly going to put this as, GM, but like LaFleur and just how well, because I guess you can call this the sophomore slump for Love, because it's his second year as a starter, and he really got very little to no actual time on the actual field when Aaron Rodgers was still there. So and again, I don't like how they paid him so fast, especially with how we saw the sophomore slump, blah, 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 blah. But to have LaFleur then say, like, listen, bro, we're not going to really pull back on anything other than we're going to mostly give it to the ball to him. And then once you feel better about yourself, we'll just release you back into just letting it rip. And that worked out. The dip in the middle of the year, we're like, oh, maybe he paid Love too fast. Maybe we put too much pressure on his shoulders. No, he's a professional. He's coached well. And he knows that showing that he doesn't have to do it himself, because we got a Josh Jacobs back there, I think really helped him calm himself down. I'm talented. He's talented. We can do this.
He is an amazing mix of Favre and Rodgers, too. Because he kind of plays more like Favre, but he throws like Aaron. A lot of off the back foot. He throws as pretty a ball as Aaron did, too. Off platform.
They do have a very similar.
Yeah. A very quick flick of the wrist, and it's just
throwing motion. Yes.
So, it's crazy.
You can see the Aaron in his
mechanics.
Yeah.
The way he physically does things is like Aaron. His style of play is like Favre. Because he is way more of a gunslinger than Aaron was. Aaron was. Sometimes I felt like Aaron even was too worried about throwing interceptions. Like sometimes he even went to the extreme.
And sometimes it was like Brett was not worried enough.
Yeah, Brett definitely wasn't worried enough. Brett was a wild man when it came to that.
Actually, 2 seconds. Speaking of Brett Favre, do you see that clip? That awkward AF clip?
Oh no, I did not.
About I don't remember his name. The guy who used to have like the sack record, and he confronted Brett Favre because he fell down for Michael Strahan to get the record. And he's like, how dare you? And then it's like this wicked awkward clip because he's just like, wait, are you serious, bro? Like, you're actually mad? Like this mad? But it was.
All right, I gotta look.
You will be very uncomfortable.
That's weird.
It is very weird.
All right. With that, one organization that knows how to develop quarterbacks. Let's talk about a man that
same division
that had to go through the absolute, minefield. Whatever you want to call it. I don't know. He had to go through the ringer of the Jets and then Carolina at the height of the Carolina dysfunction.
Go through the Jets.
Yeah, and that is Sam Darnold, whose resurgence is an absolute referendum on the Jets and the Panthers. Now, at the same time, as I just said, I don't think when he reaches free agency, if he reaches free agency, I'm not sure the Vikings are really going to let him leave the building. Like, it's not like J.J. McCarthy was some amazing prospect. He is a prospect that was thought he is younger, is going to take some time. And people did say his ceiling wasn't that high. So, like, I don't think it's set in stone that the Vikings just let Sam walk. But if they do, you have to understand that this is probably the best version of Sam Darnold you're going to get, because nowhere else is he probably going to have an offensive coach and coordinator and play caller as good as Kevin O'Connell. He's not going to have Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson. He's not going to have as good a run game as he has right now with Minnesota, in all likelihood. Now,
plus a decent defense with a great coach on the other side of the ball.
Now, I do think there are two places that Sam can go that will get him to the closest to what he has in Minnesota, and that is San Francisco and Indianapolis. Because Indianapolis actually has a lot of these elements. And Shea Steichen's a really good coach. Jalen Hurts has not been the same player since Steichen got Gardner Minshew almost to the playoffs within one game of the playoffs. And so, actually the O-line looks good. They're able to run the ball with Jonathan Taylor, so we get a good running back, get a good offensive coach. Their defense is not a joke. They have a real, I wouldn't say good defense, but I would say an NFL average defense. So I think that's actually a really good spot. Now, the Niners have questions. They're older. They're going to have to rebuild some stuff. For Sam, it's more about he'll know the system. Kyle Shanahan liked him, and you get a very good offensive coach and teacher and coordinator in Kyle Shanahan. So the roster stuff, probably better with Indy, and San Francisco, it's about the coaching. But Indy has got the coaching, too, with Shane Steichen. So I think those are the only two places that he can go that you can get this or close to this version of Sam Darnold. And he's going to have to be smart. I hope Sam's agent and all them realizes that, Sam, you shouldn't make this just about money. Because you saw what your career could be like out of the NFL. Because he was teetering on that point. So, like, if he goes to the Raiders, or if he goes to the Jets, or give me another bad team that'll be in the quarterback market this year.
I don't know if the Jets will be.
Probably not.
Because
unless Aaron decides to retire.
Aaron has talked about like, I want to keep playing, and I'd rather stay with the Jets.
Oh, okay.
Now, I don't know how the Jets feel, but
yeah, you never know that. But it's a bad quarterback draft, so
another. Maybe the Steelers again.
You know who also could be in the quarterback market too? Would be a good place, but he's not going to get the coaching that he'd get in Indy and San Francisco. Can you think? We just talked about them.
Like today?
Yeah, like a week or two. No, probably like a week or two ago.
What teams exist?
NFC.
NFC. Week or two ago. The Giants.
No, they're terrible. They're going to draft one probably. Yeah.
They hope.
But if they, for some reason, they can't draft one, that's another one. Sam, don't do it. Even if they offer you the most money, don't do it.
Don't go back to that city.
Yeah. All right, we don't have all day. So if you can't do it, Seattle.
Oh. Actually, we literally, I know we didn't talk about them really at all, but technically we just did because they played the Packers.
Yes.
The Seahawks. Okay. Oh.
Yeah. They feel like a quarterback away. A little bit. And I do think this version of Sam is better than Geno.
He'll have good wide receivers.
Yeah.
Yeah. At least he'll have that. Yeah.
Now, defensive head coach, but I think it'd be a good place for him too. But yeah, I hope his agent has the intelligence to be like, Sam, this is not necessarily about the most money.
What college did he come out of?
Darnold?
Yeah.
USC.
Oh. Was Sam Darnold one of these super genius QBs that actually went to class? Or am I thinking of somebody else?
I think you're thinking of somebody else.
Okay.
He went to class probably, but I would definitely not call him a genius.
Okay.
He's not a dummy, but I definitely wouldn't be like, he was smart coming out of college.
I thought I know Fitzmagic went to Harvard, but I thought there's a Harvard QB running around the NFL right now.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe there is, and I just don't know.
Maybe Gardner Minshew. But he's not. That doesn't. He doesn't count.
He went to Washington State.
Oh, he doesn't count.
But he might have transferred into Washington State.
He's not good enough to count anyway.
No, he's not. Shane Steichen almost got that to the playoffs, though. So I think that'd be a really good spot. Because, you watch AR, like if Shane Steichen is pulling his hair out with this one, and this is now the second year, and he's still, 12 of 35 sometimes, and I don't think this is correctable. I don't see any improvement year one to year two.
But will the Colts still want to be like, no, we want to try with Richardson?
I don't know. It depends.
Because you can argue he hasn't quite got his shot as much as because he's missed time with injuries and he benched himself.
But you gotta show some improvement.
And you got to not bench yourself, bro.
Yeah, that too. But like at the end of the day, I don't see a dramatically different player from last year to this year.
Well, could that,
and now
could
he's
that
already
be,
banged up too. So it's like,
could that? You could be like, well, he missed so much time last year with injuries.
I guess, but he's always going to have to run. Like he is never going to. And he can get maybe to NFL functionality throwing the ball, but he's never going to be good enough that running can't be a part of his game.
But we said that about Lamar.
Yeah,
and he won 2 MVPs.
He did. Lamar is a better thrower of the football than AR is, though.
AR's got a big arm.
He's got a big arm.
He's just
AR is maybe the most wild and inaccurate thrower I've ever seen. Be an NFL starting quarterback.
You know, it really boggles my mind.
What?
Just the total lack of ability. Just put some touch.
I don't understand it.
You talk a lot of crap about Mac Jones. When he needs to,
yeah, I know.
He can put some mighty fine touch on it.
He could. He
really can put that.
He at least had the element of his throwing that he could do that.
Yeah, like he knows I gotta try to throw it hard. He can't. But
listen. I'm not a doctor. I don't know. I don't know the muscle fiber, the way things connect. I don't know. Is it a physical thing?
Well, no,
is
obviously
he just built wrong to be able to ever get his muscles to be able to do that? I don't know.
Obviously, it's a mental thing. In the pocket, they're not. They're getting so tight.
I don't know if it is all mental.
He
might be too athletic. He might just not even in his shoulder.
No.
He might have too many fast twitch muscle fibers.
It doesn't make sense.
I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I'm just saying.
Your arm is too strong. You cannot. What are you, Superman out here?
I don't think he might be.
I'm made of I'm from Krypton. I cannot not crush you.
I don't know. It doesn't seem like he possesses the ability to throw the ball on a line 100 miles an hour.
That's why I just play catch with these guys.
I know. All right, listen, I said this 5 weeks ago. AR is the only quarterback I've ever seen. Now, listen, I can't throw the ball as hard or as far as AR. But if we were just like, hey, 7, like no defense, no pass rush, just 10 yards, just throw the ball accurately. I think I'd be able to throw the ball more accurately than AR.
Here's how you fix this.
I played baseball.
Here's how you fix this. If your QB didn't play baseball, he's not your QB. And that should be practice for a young QB. Give him a baseball glove and a baseball and play catch with your QB with a baseball. And you do the long toss. We start close, a couple tosses. Don't even step into the first couple. Toss it, only arm, just a little toss. And take a step back, and then boom, then we'll start. Because Patrick Mahomes talks about, I attribute a lot of my arm strength and accuracy to the fact that I was a baseball player. I bet, he doesn't know this, I bet a lot of the touch comes from being a baseball player too.
No, I think so too. I mean, Tom played baseball.
Yeah, he was drafted by the Montreal Expos.
Yes, he was.
Russell Wilson was drafted by the New York Yankees.
Yes.
A lot of these good quarterbacks who were elite guys, who we talk about how their arms and stuff. I mean, every kid in America grew up plays baseball, but play baseball. Play baseball. If you want to be an athlete in America, play baseball. I don't care what sport you want to be in. Play baseball.
I agree, especially with any sport that has anything to do with throwing a ball.
Well, I mean, you just talk about how some of the best athletes across sports, they all are multi-sports athletes. They all played all their sports.
Which is something that's going away a lot because people are like, oh, you've got to focus on one. And it's like, I don't know. No, I feel like there is definitely an advantage to playing more than one sport.
After a certain point, once you're getting to the elite levels, I'm not talking about pros, but when you're starting to play with some elite people, college, even football, college, you may. Some of them don't. AJ Brown was still playing baseball in college, and he's very good at both. But
continue.
But when you get to the levels, you want an off season to recuperate, and I get that. But when you're a young kid, and you can just get hit by a car and just bounce right up like it didn't happen, play sports all year round.
Yeah,
just hone skills.
Hone different skill sets.
Yeah.
I want different muscles.
Yeah. I want to be a quarterback, but it's not football season. Play baseball and build that arm up. and build up some of that hand-eye. If you're a hockey player and it's not winter, play baseball, build up hand-eye.
No, I get you. I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. But we live in this day and age now where it's like you have to specialize.
No.
Listen, I don't agree with it. I've even talked to some coaches who don't agree with it.
Yeah,
but that's the landscape of
fools.
Of how it is. So, all right, you can take a quick break here for a second.
Get my water.
Yeah, you do that. I'll tell you, the water is better for this, though.
I'll take it.
Because now it's out of name. No. It's fine.
At least I can play with.
I'm committed. I'm fully committed. Okay. It's over. All right. So I want to talk. SMU was in the playoffs. Good for them. They did this by moving to the ACC, actually, literally to get themselves in. They kind of bought their way into the AC by telling the ACC, we will literally just forego, I think, $100 or $150 million in TV revenue for the next 5 to 8 years just to get into the power conference because they need to get in. And they have the money that they can survive without the TV revenue for a bit. They have the donors. And college fans, and obviously particularly not media, but college coaches, all they want to complain about is the transfer portal and the NIL. And you know why I kind of like the NIL? Because in pro sports, particularly NFL, where ownership matters so much, and you have terrible ownership, you can be the Cleveland Browns, whose fan base cares so much, but you've been stuck with a terrible owner, a terrible front office, and you're just never going to win. You're never going to win. It's not going to happen. Probably not in most of these people's lifetime. As long as that owner is alive, you're not going to win. But you can be the Rams, who just got to Los Angeles, who nobody cares in the city, and win a Super Bowl. It's not fair. It's just not fair. But in college now, with the NIL, you know what matters? Do you care? Does your college care? Does the fan base around it care? Does the alum care? Because if you care, you can win football games. Because you will get the money to go and get guys in the transfer portal to recruit like this. This is why SMU is in the playoffs. This is, by the way, this is why USC is down. USC does not spend the kind of money that they could spend. Like, they used to care in the Pete Carroll days, They have the money that when these big names go into this transfer portal, they could be in on them, but they're not, because it's Los Angeles. USC hasn't been good enough for so long that maybe they've tapped out. There's the political aspect, and it's a good academic school. Like, they care enough to go get Lincoln Riley and put the house up for him and do all these things, but they don't care enough to consistently shell out the money to go buy guys on the transfer portal. So they don't care. They do not care enough to compete on a high level. Texas Tech does. That's why they've gotten better. SMU is foregoing $100 million plus in revenue for the next 8 years just so they can move themselves into a power conference. And that's the thing that I kind of like about the new landscape of college football. If you care, you will get better and you will win games. And you will elevate your program to another level, or at least get it on a level that it hadn't been before. That's what I love about this NIL times. While everyone else complains, I like that it rewards alumni, fan bases that care about winning. Because that's the thing that sucks about the NFL. You can have the most rabid, awesome fan base, but if your owner's a dickhead, you're never going to win. I know you're not going to have much to say on this. You don't have to necessarily.
I think the NIL is bad.
I know you do. I don't know why, because like people were getting paid before that anyway, so who cares?
Yeah, which is also bad.
I'm not trying to get into a philosophical debate with you.
I mean,
do you get my aspect of it?
Oh no, I understood that, and I'm like, okay, that is something about, I guess, a plus for the NIL. I don't think it negates the awful other things it does, but that's a different. I
know it's a different conversation.
It's your segment.
Yeah. Hey, North Carolina, we want to care now. We do really good in basketball. You know what? This football thing seems pretty fun. Let's go get Bill Belichick. Let's agree that we're going to pony up $15 more million to increase his NIL budget so we can spend with some of the other teams in the ACC. They care. I like it. I like rewarding people who actually care and want to put in the time. I feel bad about that in the NFL. I feel bad that the Browns suck all the time. For the fan base, I feel bad. Their owner sucks, so I don't feel bad for him.
Sure.
You know, but I feel bad for them. And then I feel bad sometimes when, and I was rooting for it because Matt Stafford, but like when the Rams won that Super Bowl, like,
I was not.
I
did not want the Rams to win
I had
that at all.
my buddy who's been on the show twice, and he lives most of his time in New Orleans, but he was in LA for a little bit for work. And I was talking to him, and I was like, "Did you know the Rams Super Bowl parade was today?" He was like, "I had no idea."
Yeah, I remember seeing it.
Like in Cleveland, every single person would know. Every single person in Boston knows.
Yes.
Like,
oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think. Is there any other fan base who's won recently, and you're like, do they care that much?
Florida Panthers.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I mean, I guess the Padres haven't won big.
But I still give the fans credit because they are showing up more and more.
The San Diego ones, yeah, but half of them have been burned because they moved to LA and got mad about it.
Oh, well.
That's what I mean.
San Diego for football, yeah. But like San Diego Padres fans.
Yeah, I was talking about Padres.
Yeah, they're San Diego's more embracing the Padres. I mean, part of that is because the Chargers left. Mm-hmm. But like, good for the Padres.
Yeah, that's
Take
true.
advantage of that.
That's true. I'm trying to think of some other ones that have won recently, and I'm like, does your fan base care that much?
How big is the Texas Rangers fan base? I mean, they do all right.
Yeah, it's not that big.
Because I know like Texas, they care about football mostly.
Yeah, I would consider that in the middle. Like it's not as bad. It's not as nearly as bad as like the Rams one, but yeah, I mean, is their fan base all in? Not really.
Yeah, I mean, if Texas likes any baseball team, it's Houston Astros.
Yeah, usually it's more that, but.
Yeah, I guess recently, I don't know.
Okay.
Florida Panthers and the Rams, I guess, are the best examples.
All right.
And to be honest, I think the Florida is embracing hockey more and more. I mean, part of that is because they're being successful.
Yeah. All right.
But
so we're going to take our last break. When we come back, we do our MLB free agency shopping list and our Darwin. Stick with us, guys.
All right, we are back. We're going to try a new game. I'm kind of excited about it. Maybe it'll be a total shit show, though. Well, we'll see. We got to try this out. Right now, for the holiday season, we got MLB free agency is in full swing. But now that the big giant names that are only for the exclusive clubs are off the market, like the Snells and the Sotos, we can kind of start talking about the more broader free agency.
It was still expensive, but not.
Listen, we still got pretty much the biggest names left available, but they're not so big
that you're like only 3 teams can do this.
Yeah. And, we're going to have our shopping, our players that we can shop from. We're going to have a list of 5 players that Dom knows. And then we're going to have 5 teams that need to go shopping for these players. And one by one, the teams will come in and Dom will say, this is the best product for you. This is the best fit for you. And we're going to see, after all these 5 teams are done shopping, if they all got a pretty good gift this holiday season.
Yeah.
Christmassy. But all right, so who are we shopping for? I guess our first product, I guess you could call them, Teoscar Hernandez, just outfielder, just from the Dodgers, just won a World Series, big bat, big right-handed bat. He's a big name on the market. Our next will be Corbin Burns, probably the biggest pitching name on the market, absolute stud, just came off a great season. His first season in the American League for the Baltimore Orioles. We have Nolan Arenado, getting up there at age, but he's still got something to give. Third baseman.
For all the talk about him having a bad season, it's kind of only the power numbers that were down. Everything else actually remains still pretty. He still hit some doubles. His average still is good. He obviously can still play defense extremely well. So,
but he still got something to give.
Yeah.
And then another pitcher, Jack Flaherty. He's on the market. Pretty good pitching name out there. And then finally, our last player on the market right now that we're going to talk about today. Third baseman from the Astros, Alex Bregman. Still got something to tank. But anyway. All right, those are the players that we're shopping from or shopping for. So Dom, our first buyer is here. And they are a team that seems to be in on everybody, gets nobody. The Toronto Blue Jays. From these 5 guys, who would be the best fit and what should they get for the Toronto
For the Toronto Blue Jays, I'm going to go Corbin Burns. Toronto is a big enough market. They can spend money. Hell, they were in on the Ohtani sweepstakes. They need a bona fide number one pitcher. They kept everybody in the lineup. So I do believe Corbin Burns probably the best fit for the Toronto Blue Jays. With Jack Flaherty being in this list too, I have a different pivot point for another team with a pitcher who I expect is going to be one of the teams that you put on this list. But I don't know which teams are which. So
don't. Oh, wow.
I know. So
Corbin
we could
Burns.
end with some awful fits here.
Corbin Burns.
I don't
Well,
know the teams.
that's kind of the fun of this. Maybe in the end, it'll be a mess.
I know.
But all right, Corbin Burns immediately off the board. Wow. That is a little surprising. All right, next team. You know, it's a team that is felt that they have been in contention for a little while now. You know, some tough teams in their division they will have to compete with, but so far have been kind of quiet this offseason. The Atlanta Braves. Should the Atlanta Braves pick from these players? You knew I was going to mess with you a little bit here today.
I would have been a good spot for Corbin Burns.
That's why I was like, ooh.
You know, the offense dried up a little bit, and they got some guys getting older. Now, this individual would still be old, but, you know, I think he's still pretty good. Very nice season last year, kind of a bounce back season. After the year before, he was in a place that was just kind of a bad fit for him. I don't think his name's been thrown out there a ton, but I don't see anybody else on this list that makes sense for this team anyway. I'm going to go Teoscar Hernandez for the Braves.
Okay, Oscar Teoscar.
Because they don't need a third baseman.
No.
So they don't need Arenado, and they don't need Bregman. So I'm going to go Teoscar Hernandez, Atlanta Braves, World Series experience now.
Okay. It's going to get a little messy.
It could.
So our next team, also another team that, like, man, not heard from yet. But I feel like they are in position where they could make some moves here to prepare themselves, but they're not doing it. What do the Seattle Mariners need to do, Dom?
The Seattle Mariners. See, I have a spot for Bregman, but I don't think you're going to say this team's name. So I'm going to go Alex Bregman to the Seattle Mariners.
Okay. I like
Let's
that one.
hurt somebody in your division at the same time. You bring in a guy who's been there, done that. Not home run reliant in a park that it is hard to hit the ball out of the park. Doubles, play good defense, know how to win, know how to hit in big spots. Alex Bregman to the Seattle Mariners.
Okay.
Who never, ever, ever are able to muster enough offense.
Yeah. Yes. But also they never seem to muster up enough money for these guys.
That's true.
Very cheap franchise. All right. Let's actually do the one I called a quick audible literally right before we started here.
Okay.
But Milwaukee Brewers. What should the Milwaukee Brewers do?
Well, the only ones left here are Flaherty and Arenado, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to go, the Brewers, go Nolan Arenado. He'll be cheaper, right? You don't like spending money. You have a very young team, so that's a nice veteran presence. You have a team that can hit the ball out of the ballpark, so Nolan's drop in power shouldn't be the worst thing in the world. And you can help your defense, which I think sometimes is pretty suspect.
Okay.
So I kind of like Nolan Arenado to the Brewers.
Dom, I think you played this almost perfect. I'm a little disappointed, but also like very impressive.
All right.
Because it seems like, well, then Jack Flaherty is a Houston Astro.
Yes. All right. So I was hoping that you were going to do the Red Sox or the Tigers because I was going to put Flaherty on the Red Sox, and I was going to do Bregman to the Tigers. But
Tigers were a team I very much considered, and the Red Sox were a team I was never going to put on this list.
Yeah. So Houston is in a space where we think they're kind of rebooting a little bit. I don't think Jack Flaherty will be overly expensive. Listen, he'll still cost money, but I don't think it's going to have to be some 8-year, $300 million, anything like that. I think you could easily see it being 3 to 4 years, $20 million a year, something more in that range. And Houston they can spend money, but I think they're trying to reboot things a little bit. Now, you don't want to just fall off a cliff. You still want to be able to sell tickets. I think Jack Flaherty is a very good fit for the Houston Astros.
All right.
So I like that. I was hoping it was going to be the Sox because I think that's where the Sox are going to go, but All right. I was a little nervous.
That one.
When I had to put Teoscar on the Braves, I was a little nervous.
I mean, when you immediately went Corbin Burns and Hernandez, I was like, oh man, this could be. But that would, when you put Bregman
On Seattle.
I was like, okay, that was clean, because I was kind of like, trying to be fair, but still trying to mess with you a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I was going to try to get you stuck with, well, I guess Bregman's going home, but very well done. That went good.
Yeah, I think that went very well. Like I said, I was a little nervous when I had to put Teoscar on the Braves. It's not exactly where I wanted him, but
just to recap, you said the Toronto Blue Jays are going to get a big name in Corbin Burns. Good for Toronto. The Atlanta Braves will get Teoscar Hernandez, Alex Bregman to the Mariners. Braves get Nolan Arenado, and the Houston Astros will get Jack Flaherty. All right. That's been our Christmas shopping for the MLB free agents that we have.
Where were you going to put Teoscar and Corbin? Because obviously you decide the 5 teams. I didn't know which teams you were going to say.
Yes. Well, I mean, I did try to, again, select these teams a little bit to...
Because you can have Teoscar going to the Mariners. They already tried that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I would not.
So where were you thinking Teoscar would go?
I thought
Houston?
Teoscar could maybe go to the Blue Jays.
Okay. Go back home to the Blue Jays?
Yeah.
All right. Not bad.
Because, I mean...
And then you had Corbin Burns going to...
I had Corbin Burns actually going to Houston.
Oh, okay.
Because, I agree with you that they could very much be a punting team this offseason, but that is, if they don't, a move like that is very on brand for the 21st century Houston Astros.
Yeah, exactly. All right. With that, it's time to finish it up. Darwin Award, let's go. Right. This week's Darwin Award winner is the Miami Dolphins, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Bears.
Oh, a 3-for.
3-for. And, it kind of goes with what I said in my opening segment a little bit. There was just a certain theme I felt like to last week of NFL football. And then you saw it with the Darwin. Miami, 3 interceptions from Tua against a real defense in the Texans. Like, again, if you're going to be less talented, you can't also then be the reason why I lose. And they decided to pay this man a crap ton of money before the season. The Jacksonville Jaguars, same thing, with a guy who had the injury history just like Tua, hadn't really achieved anything yet, made him the highest paid player in the NFL in Trevor Lawrence. And then there's the Bears, who decide we're going to stick with a defensive head coach. We're going to draft a quarterback. We're going to throw him right to the Wolves right away. We have a second first-round pick. We're going to draft a wide receiver. He doesn't need offensive line protection. That's for losers. And so the Bears, who are in division with the Packers, can see everything Green Bay does and seems like decide, all right, we'll do the complete opposite, right? When it comes to the quarterback position, we'll be successful that way. And then the Jags in Miami, listen, you know what you saw this week? You saw a team that's in a bad situation with Atlanta, but at least they didn't give Kirk Cousins everything, and they at least had a backup plan in case it didn't work. And then you saw the Minnesota Vikings, who are in position to take down the Lions, who have been every Super Bowl favorite for weeks now. And now the Vikings could win the division. And they told their old quarterback, who was off an Achilles tear at least, but who's won a lot, and they didn't have a draft pick to draft another one. And they said, you know what, buddy? We're done. Go kick rocks. It's over. We got to do something else. And they went with Sam Darnold on the cheap, and they have, 11 wins right now?
Yes.
Yeah. And then you have Miami and the Jags, who just seem desperate. They act in desperation. They didn't even have to pay Trevor Tua yet. They literally could have waited another year. They just never let anything play out. And then there's the Bears, like I said, who have the most successful team when it comes to the quarterback position in their division. And they're just like, whatever they do, we're going to do the exact opposite every single time. I thought this Sunday was a perfect example of poorly run organizations, poorly developed quarterback plays from bad ownership and bad organizations. So I'm giving all 3 of them the Darwin, because we're in a situation where, like I said, you got a Vikings team who doesn't even have a high-end quarter. I mean, he's playing like one, but he didn't have to get paid like one after just telling somebody to go kick rocks. And then you have Green Bay, who waved bye-bye to Aaron, they paid Jordan Love eventually, but they at least waited for him to be successful. And they did it around the curve. Now they don't have to pay Jordan Love the same that that Trevor Lawrence is getting paid, or Tua is getting paid right now. So, like, I thought the bad ownership stuff was on full display and juxtaposed to some well-run places. Not that I would say Atlanta's well-run, because they're not, but at least Atlanta was like, listen, we know we're taking a big risk, but at least let's have a backup plan. And Penix is starting this week, so while Miami and the Jags season has been over and is over, Atlanta still has a fighting chance.
Did you feel like Miami finally came to a realization about Tua this week?
I don't know, because I don't understand how they weren't in a realization before that.
I mean, like,
to pay him again.
I mean, the locker room.
Maybe if they had let it play out another year, and they had played this year, and they had been as absolutely disastrous as they were with their backup, and I could at least be like, they tried to push this can down the road as long as they could. Then they got PTSD from how awful their team was when he got hurt. So, like, again, I'd still make fun of them. I'd still say they were bad, but at least it would be more understandable. To do it early is mind-boggling to me. When you had all the statistics, he doesn't beat winning teams. And not only does he not beat winning teams, he plays poorly in those games. That is part of the reason why you lose.
Well, I meant like...
And you're in a cold weather division.
Yeah. Yeah. I meant more like...
Like, at least in the NFC, most of those teams play in domes. KC doesn't play in a dome. The Bills don't play in a dome. The Steelers and Ravens don't play in a dome. Like, if you're going to win anything in the playoffs, you're probably going to have to play in one of those places.
Yeah.
And you have no chance with him. But anyway, continue.
I mean, like, the team in the locker room
maybe
finally realized that, like, okay. Because they would, they liked him. He would, every time he would get injured, they would regress hugely, to the point where, like, the team kind of realized, like, oh, if Tua's not out here, I don't want to put my body on the line type of stuff. But after it happened again and he came back, and they're not good now with him, and he is showing that he is a big part of the problem. Is the team just like, okay, you're a nice guy, we're not winning anything with you, buddy. And
probably.
I'm sorry.
Maybe.
And now
and that's the thing that makes it the worst.
Because they look like they don't care anymore.
I know, they kind of did. By the end of it, at least they did.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. You can't, like, there's no defense of this one. Like, you can't be like, well, he had to try and keep pace with. No, the Texans' offense is not good. Like, they didn't score a lot of points.
Yeah.
Like, they really don't look that good right now.
Yeah.
But Tua's just throwing the ball to the other team and basically handed them the game. Like, the Houston offense really didn't do that much. Like, there was no reason for Tua to have to force any issue, force anything. And they've done this new thing where they're like, hey, let's not throw the ball to Tyreek Hill. Let's try and be more spread it out.
100%.
I know he's not 100%, but he went off the week before. But they are doing this thing where, like, you got to spread it out. Well, that makes you worse, because clearly it seemed Tyreek was always elevating Tua to a place he never was. So,
I mean, like, we knew that.
We did.
We knew that.
We knew that. And I think most of the league knew that. That was also part of the reason where I was like, when Miami gave him that contract, it was the same thing. I'm not trying to compare the players, because he's better than this guy. He's better than Daniel Jones. But it was like, if he hits the open market, who are you bidding against with this much money? Like, I don't think no one on the open market was going to give Daniel Jones what the Giants gave him. And I don't think anyone on the open market was going to pay Tua the way Miami paid him either.
It is strange how, like, we just talked about the MLB market. Like, MLB players at this point are kind of like, I just want to go to the open market because I know I'll make another dollar. Quarterbacks, some of them don't want that to happen, because then they'll be exposed as to not, like, they can't then hold their team hostage for $40+ million.
I know, it is. That's a good point. In the MLB, it's like, let me hit the free agency so everyone's bidding. In the NFL, it's like, how can I hold my own team hostage to overpay me? But
I mean, that's mostly a quarterback thing.
No, it is. It is mostly a quarterback
thing. The other
thing.
positions don't have that kind of leverage, and
yeah,
most position in sports,
but
important position in sports.
Congratulations to those three, and two of them, like I said, what Green Bay never does, they never do things out of desperation. Well, Jacksonville, Miami did things out of desperation this offseason, and the Bears, I don't even know what to call the Bears. they're just dumb. They just do dumb things. So that has been it for Slo Ur Roll this week. All my eyes here will be on Tennessee, Ohio State. Some big time college football playoffs.
You know what else?
What?
It's Fantasy Football Championship week.
Yeah, shut up. Have a great rest of your week, ladies and gentlemen, and Merry Christmas.